Hello you guys, this is Irene and I just want to dig into some international and national headlines that have piqued my interest. So let's get started. I wanted to talk about Congresswoman Nanette Barragán and how she's been helping Maria Lila Mesa Castro. I know that they call her Maria Mesa most of the time, but her last name is Castro. And for those of you who don't remember who she is the immigrant who traveled all that long way with her little ones only to bring them to the United States and try to illegally cross the border with her babies. Got herself and her children caught up in that tear gassing incident where they were basically trying to stop them from illegally storming the borders and coming into our country. The media held her up as some sort of victim, not somebody that was attempting to break the law alongside many other people with her children in tow. And so Congresswoman Barragán, and I feel like everybody is just finding their voice to try to prop themselves up as somebody who's doing something amazing right now. She decided to go to the border with a couple of lawyers and work the system. Apparently this is all out anarchy, right? So she goes with the lawyers. They're able to get Maria to walk a few feet onto American soil. Long story short, now Maria and her children are having their paperwork processed. When our Congress people decide to be anarchist in nature, you really just don't know where to go with that, right? But they've managed to do it. No, she didn't have paperwork when she crossed into the border, but yes, now her paperwork is being processed. Woohoo, right? So now Nanette is running all around on anybody's news station who will listen, talking about the atrocities of having children just waiting at the border, and it's cold, and it's this, and it's that, and apparently it's our fault that people have chosen to bring children into a situation where you're just not going to be able to run into the country, but you might have to sit and you have to wait. And they're blaming us as Americans for this, or more than anything, our president and everybody who's conservative for this. This is what I have to say. Are these people not responsible for their own kids? Like, do we really want to develop a policy where if you show up to a border with a kid, we're going to expedite you? So that everybody's going to grab any kid they see to come to the border because they know they're going to be expedited? And to say, you know, we had the child die in custody. First of all, people die. That's very sad. But like, ish happens when you do reckless things with children. And so you have people doing reckless things with children, and then children are suffering the consequences, and they want to point the finger at the United States instead of these adults who are bringing children into these volatile situations. Moreover, I'm not really buying the "we care so much about migrant children" story, because these are the same people who tout Trump lessening the background check requirements for the 15,000 children who are being held by ICE. They tout that as victory. So let me get this right. Y'all care so much about children, right? You care so much about children that not doing a background check on every adult who is planning to sponsor a child is a good idea. That's a victory for you. That's a win. So there could be a pedophile in the house. They could be part of a child sex trafficking ring. They could be violent criminals. You don't know because you think it's victorious to not do a background check on everybody because that just takes too long. So it's better that we risk putting children in dangerous situations than it is for them just to stay in government care until we've properly vetted the people that are sponsoring them. And they keep making it like it's okay because they're mostly family. Well, aren't mostly family the people that mostly abuse children anyway? So what does them being mostly family do? Like, is that supposed to make people comfortable? So that's why this whole song and dance about the kids at the border and how much they care about migrant children, I'm not buying. I think this is more a case of, can we be contrary? Do you know? I think that's what this is. Can we be contrary? Is there a way that we can be contradictory simply for the fact that we don't like the president? And they don't care about these migrants, these migrant children, or anything. It's just something to argue about, something to keep us distracted. I'm not buying it. It just sounds very faulty to me. Plus, also, I'm not for them leeching off of and latching onto these migrants people. Because in the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, we had a lawyer come forward who talked about an illegal immigrant child who was pregnant who wanted an abortion, and how Brett Kavanaugh didn't want to have this child just randomly getting an abortion without permission of her parents. Here is a child who's in the country illegally and it could say anything. And he felt the parents should be involved. We don't know that this child is being honest, but we can't just let this child go having surgery and killing her own children when she's making it known her parents would be against it. But here's the problem. This little girl wasn't able to get her abortion until she was like 5 or 6 months along. So at that point, it's a late-term abortion. But she's a vulnerable person. She's in a country as an illegal immigrant. She's gotten all this legal representation, all this pressure for her to get this abortion. So even if she changed her mind, how many people do you think walked up to her and were like, would you no longer like to murder your child? You know, now that the baby is full on kicking you in the womb? So that's my thing with Nanette Barragán being held as some sort of awesome woman and Maria Castro making these decisions with her little ones. Now, Maria, you are just a pawn. Because nobody gives two craps about Maria Castro or Maria Mesa, as they like to call her in the news, because they don't want you to know her last name is Castro. And let me say this. I literally have a very, very close relative who's first generation Guatemalan. Like half. First generation Guatemalan. One grandparent is half Nicaraguan and half Guatemalan. Other grandparent is Guatemalan. Father is from Guatemala. He is the first generation. These are the immigrants that are at the border. And I still don't care. Like, we have laws. And I'm going to go back to this, y'all. If we're not following the laws anymore, then all of us aren't following the laws anymore. Now, making these exceptions for congresswomen and people who aren't even part of this country and every blowjo, like, I'm not with it. Like, this is full on anarchy or not. So y'all decide what's up. Because let me know. Because we can get a revolution going if that's what we're doing. If we're just breaking the law at will and this is just commonplace. I mean, I'm tired of our elected officials breaking laws and then expecting us to follow them. Can y'all follow the laws? I mean, that's what I have to say. So speaking of Brett Kavanaugh, 83 complaints against this man. Look, I rock with Kavanaugh and I'll tell you why. Because he is just clever enough and his track record speaks well enough of him that I believe he will get up into the Supreme Court and him and his colleagues will pick apart Roe versus Wade until it is a useless ruling. See, they can't overturn it, but they can pick it apart until you can't murder your baby anymore. And these people are so hard on to murder these kids, like this is important to them, that they are just throwing in complaints. Almost 100 complaints, really 83 complaints. Can he do something first? So the one complaint that they hope would stick won't stick because the judicial panel said he's exempt because he sits on the Supreme Court. In your face. So I just think that's entertaining. I'm going to need them to back up off of Brett Kavanaugh. That's an L for you guys. You guys lost. And pretty soon, if we're lucky, you won't be able to kill your babies either. I know, it's just stabbing you in the heart. You're just dying to shed some innocent blood. I know how it is when you're a murderer, but you know, too bad. So sad for you. So with that said, there's a bit of tightening on the Supplemental Nutrition Plan, SNAP. They're tightening up employment exemptions. Is what it is. Y'all know, I felt like part of this government shutdown that we're having should include cutting social service nets. Because people are too comfortable. And I'm going to need people to get a little less comfortable, because the reason we can't really exact any real change is because everybody's living too comfortable. If we all got very uncomfortable really quick, trust me, we would see some changes. Because people would start to live in reality. So I'm not necessarily against them tightening employment exemptions. I don't know the details of that. I'll have to look into it. But on the surface, I'm fine with it. because I need people to get a little bit more disgruntled. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to need that so that some cognitive liberation can go on. So apparently there are some super hackers that are going around hacking international institutions, including the UN. Well, kudos to y'all. That's what I have to say. First of all, I'm not a big fan of the UN anyway. I'm going to need this one world government type thinking to go away. The UN is doing too much, and they have too much say in too many things. They really do. Can we all be sovereign? We have too much international stuff. The International Monetary Fund, the United Nations. Like, I'm going to need all this united stuff. Like, we could be united in spirit. We can all love each other. But I'm going to need us to stop playing games and trying to make everything international. And speaking of things that are international, Britain is learning that it's just really, really stupid for them to jump on the let's all be one bandwagon. When the UN started, I was like, this sounds a lot like what they did to the United States. The states united and now no states are sovereign. Because the states used to operate like little countries. Now everybody just says United States like states have no state rights because, well, states have no state rights. Because, you know, the government will come and stomp all over their rights the minute the states start doing something they don't like. Britain is having the same problem. Right now, you had Jeremy Corbyn blaming their prime minister for basically plunging the country into a national crisis with this Brexit bill, or this Brexit deal, and he is claiming it's going to affect everything. Trade, flow of essential goods, travel, the whole nine. Obviously, the prime minister doesn't care because she's playing the coalition game. But you know what? I don't feel sorry for Britain because, you know, you should have known from the history of the United States. And see, this is the thing. They want to unify everything, and eventually they'll unify the money, and we'll just all be one big country with one big government, and nobody will be sovereign anymore. And so you're watching it play out, and everybody's going to act like they're surprised. But why are you guys surprised? They mapped this out and put it in writing for us. Y'all need to go to the UN's website and start reading some stuff. I'm going to need you guys to dig into the documents that they make public. Because they're not doing anything that, that they haven't said they were going to do. They're just following the plan. So the fake outrage is getting on my nerves. With that said, let's get into the anti-lynching law. That's a joke. Super funny. I'm going to need Kamala Harris and Cory Booker to stop trying to make a name for themselves. Can they do anything that's worth doing? Can they do even one thing that makes sense? I feel like everything, I mean, Cory is freaking Spartacus. Kamala, an anti-lynching law. Like, anti-lynching? Is this a thing anymore? And in the words of like many people, I think Angel Ramirez came on here and said the same thing. He was like, isn't that murder? Don't we already have an anti-murder law? What is the significance of this? There is no significance. And then the NAACP has the audacity to be like, we started as an anti-lynching organization, so we find this to be a victory. Can the NAACP take several seats? NAACP, you aren't useful to anybody. And Kamala, you are an embarrassment. Can black people stop walking around in their black skin being an embarrassment? Is she only half black? It's just a question. It's just a random question. I'm over Kamala. I don't care about any of that stuff. But let me tell you how this lynching law, let's get a little deeper. The NAACP is a joke. Kamala Harris is a joke. But you know why this is extra disgusting? This is extra disgusting because Cindy Hyde-Smith, you remember her? I'd go to a public hanging if he invited me. Her. She oversaw the vote. Help any of this make sense to me? An anti-lynching law that we don't even need. Because murder is illegal and they're not exactly lynching people in the streets anymore. gets passed. Kamala and the NAACP are waving this as some victory, and the person who's over the vote just finished saying she would go to a public hanging if somebody invited her. Is this pure comedy? I just want to know. Like, is this a joke? Is this a joke? Are we being punked? Are y'all punking the American people? You tell me. I'm just curious. You let me know what's up. She'd be in the front row, but she's all behind this anti-lynching law. I can't with a lot of these things. So apparently you can't be black and cash a paycheck. This was learned by a man in Brooklyn, Ohio. He was at Huntington Bank. He was arrested for trying to cash his own paycheck. Enough said on that. Black people, direct deposit is the only way to live, okay? Because apparently, if you walk into a bank with a paycheck that's slightly over $1,000, you could go to jail. This could be you. But we got that anti-lynching law passed, so that's what really matters. Like, I cannot with this life. All right, so apparently there's some issues in Texas, and this actually really surprises me. Some institutions are asking people to sign a pro-Israel oath. Has Israel become like a religion? Like, I know you can't come for the Jews, but really signing a pro-Israel oath, this is a thing. And you can lose your job if you don't sign it. Okay? So the Texas ACLU has filed a lawsuit against several institutions. They're claiming this is a violation of civil rights. I just have to say that, damn, the Jews are good. They are not to be thwarted with. They're getting people fired from their jobs. You have to swear your allegiance to the Jews or you lose your job. Let's see how this plays out. Good for the Texas ACLU for fighting a downhill or uphill battle, because the Jews aren't going to let this go quietly, okay? So, there was a woman, her name is Akumu. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I don't know if I don't know if this is the age of black people doing stupid things. But I think she's African. She's an immigrant of some kind. Legal. Okay. So she decided to hang a big sign from the Statue of Liberty and then proceed to scale up the Statue of Liberty in defense of illegal immigrants. Protesting ICE. Why, black woman? Why? Did you get your papers? Did you have to follow the rules? Can we expect other people to? Like I said, are we going to have anarchy or not? Let me know right now. Is this all out and out do what you want land? Is it time for anarchy? You want to let me know? Because I'm gonna need you guys to stop pushing for something you don't really want. That's what I'm going to need. I'm going to need the news to stop pushing for stuff they don't really want. Because what if some other people who are not pro-immigration decide to be anarchists too? What if we all decide the government and the rules don't apply? And start pushing some other agendas too. I'm just saying. You be careful with this anarchy rhetoric, mainstream news. Somebody you may not want to pick up on it might pick up on it. Okay, so we have the Criminal Justice Reform Bill. It was passed overwhelmingly. It was a bipartisan effort. It was 87 to 12 vote. That's awesome. Yay, yay, yay. Rolling back life-term sentences for those who were arrested under the 3 strikes law. That shouldn't have happened anyway, so I guess that's cool. Apparently, pregnant women don't have to be chained down while they're giving birth. That's cool. Not shackling a pregnant woman as a human being is coming out of her vagina. That makes sense. You know, and other things that they overturned that should have never existed anyway. Nonviolent drug users who got mandatory sentences will see a rollback of their terms. Trump should have signed it yesterday. Look. This is like giving back pats for ending slavery. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like I punch you in your face, I apologize, and people start giving me presents for apologizing. This is like I run over your child with a car, and then I send you flowers, and everybody says I'm awesome for sending you flowers. This is like, why is this a positive thing? None of these things should have ever existed. And the next time somebody brings up Hillary Clinton, I'm going to point to the fact that she believes in murder, her daughter is extra pro-murder, and her husband is the cause of the 3 strikes law that they're saying is so awesome that we overturned. And let's be clear. The only reason the Democrats are overturning this stuff is because people are going to bring this up all the time and it makes them look bad. The Democrats have just been sliding under the radar with their black child murder rhetoric, their pro-sodomy rhetoric, and at the same time pushing laws that unjustly get people locked up. And they've been getting away with it. And now they're trying to double down. I'm mad that Senator Dick Durbin had the audacity to say it was an accident when he agreed to passing that law. How do you accidentally... Okay, so he was talking about the crack to cocaine law, the 100 to 1 law that was then moved down to 18 to 1 because that's so much better. He's going to talk about it was an accident. It was a mistake. We didn't know what we were doing. We were so overwhelmed. Really? All the lives that were ruined? Oh, that was an accident? That was a mistake. You didn't know what you were doing. Senator Durbin. I'm done. This is a joke. Our political system is a joke. They're pushing for anarchy, but they don't want none of this anarchy stuff. You don't want it. But you're going to stop playing around on the immigration tip, breaking laws, and defending criminals. Or somebody else is going to pick up on this anarchy stuff, number one. And number two, I'm going to need the Democrats to stop trying to backpedal over their racism. Now, you guys know I'm not a Republican because I don't like them either. But I will say this. The backpedaling is not going to work, Dems. We see both political parties for what they are. You guys are scum. You're two sides of the same slippery, chewed up. You know when you go, y'all aren't from San Francisco, but they have these machines you can put a quarter in and it flattens the quarter to nothing and it's unrecognizable. You guys are two sides of that same flattened, stretched out coin. And I'm not buying this. But I'll say while you guys are fighting tit for tat and being silly, stupid heads, you better be careful. Because while you're promoting breaking laws and disregard for authority, some people might pick up on that you're not trying to have pick up on that. So stop. And you can do better with these little faux prison reform crap. That's BS. The stuff you guys reformed were things that shouldn't have occurred anyway. Can you reform some other stuff? That's called correction of things that should have never been in place. I'm going to need you to reform other things. Not the most egregious, obvious things that should have never been implemented in the first place. And if another one of them stands up and talks about what a mistake is when lives were ruined, I will literally vomit. I'm not buying this. I'm not. And there I go with the national and world headlines that have personally interested me this week. I will see you guys a little bit later today.